Hello everyone and welcome to the Fiber Floss and Fiction podcast. I am Ann P. Today is Friday. It is October 11th, 2019. Welcome back to all of my subscribers and returning viewers, and of course a hearty welcome to those of you who might be new. Thank you all for taking the time to hang out with me today and talk about all kinds of crafty things as well as some books. We kind of hyper warped into winter here in the mountains. It was 22 when I got up this morning, even though I think it was 65, 67, something like that yesterday during the day. It's supposed to warm up into the 50s today, but I have moved on to sweater weather and was actually a little underdressed to take my walk this morning, even though I had on a fleece jacket over like sports type weight pullover and my winter leggings. I could have actually used a little bit more. We waited till the sun was up because I was not quite that commando, but it's about 10:30 here and it's only 47 degrees. So I'm hoping that fall will make a little bit of a comeback. I know some of you have either had or are having snow as we speak. That's a little early for winter for me for the 11th of October, but you know, not unheard of. Those in the northern climes get that sort of thing here in the US, certainly in Canada. So anyway, enough about the weather. Things here are good. My husband has finally finished his tour of duty on the East Coast, so he is back home full time, which is why I'm trying to record my video today, since we've got a bunch of stuff planned for this weekend and I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to talk to you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk knitting first, like usual. Thank you to everyone who came out at the Stitches Salt Lake event. Hopefully you had a great time. It was a little bit quiet midweek, which is to be expected because lots of people work, right? But Saturday was super busy. I had a great class on Friday and Saturday. Thank you if you attended that. Onward to Stitches SoCal in Pasadena in about a month. I think it's like the 14th and 15th-ish of November. So that's coming up really quickly. But looking forward to that. If you are planning on attending that event, please let me know. I will be there Wednesday through Friday of that week. So not the weekend, but if you have a reason to go and visit, maybe want to do some shopping in the marketplace or taking a class, would love to try to at least have a quick meetup and say hi, howdy. So yeah, all of that is good and very fun, and I'm looking forward to it again this year. So what have I been working on in knitting? I am still working on my Chauncey sweater, but I have finished the body thanks to airplane knitting to go to and from Salt Lake. And I have started the first sleeve. So here is the sweater currently. You can see I've got the body and the ribbing done, and then I've just picked up and started the sleeve for that. So now that the weather has turned to actual sweater weather, I'm looking forward to trying to get this one finished and maybe even wear it. Again, the yarn that I'm using for this is Willy Wonka Fibers Ayrton Sock, which is the Merino Cashmere Nylon Fingering Weight. The gray is Chimney Sweep, and the green is called Forest Primeval. That's a pretty good representation of it. We've got a nice sunny day here today. So I'm going to be working on that with a focus to try to get that done in the next couple of weeks so I have that to wear. As always, I will put links, Ravelry links to the patterns I talk about if they're available below. So you guys can check that one out. That is Chauncey by Isabel Kramer. And I have also been working on this huge project that I'm working on to go on the runway in Stitches West, which is in February. I'm trying to get this organized so you guys can actually see it, but it's a lot of yarn. Sorry, I thought I was better prepared. This is a brand new base that the yarn guys are importing from Rauma yarns, which is called Alpakka-Lin. They had it at Stitches Salt Lake, and anybody who picked up a skein was like, ooh, that's really soft, which it is. It's baby alpaca and a core thread of linen for strength. So it has a gorgeous halo. It kind of looks like mohair, but it's super, super soft. So I am working on beading this dark blue version. That's really probably closer right there. It got blown out a little by the sun. I'm using size 6 silver lined crystal beads for this. And this is this really, really dark midnight blue that's part of this yarn line. So working on that. We'll share more as I work on it, but right now just one round takes me about 35 minutes to do, so it's not a quick knit. I'm just chipping away at it. Really enjoying working with that yarn, and I love how those beads look on that dark, dark blue. I think it's going to be pretty amazing when it's finished. Okay, so those are the 2 knitting projects that I'm working on. No spinning to talk about this week, so we're going to move right along to books. I read a lot this last time, so be prepared, you guys. Just very quickly, I did finish up Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince for Magical Stitches in Literature. That was our year 6, book 6. So I finished that one up. The last book we'll read, book 7, is in November, December. So that's coming up. The next book I picked up, I read as an audiobook. It's called Binding Vows. We needed a book also for Magical Stitches prompts that had the word vow in the title. The author's name is Catherine Bybee, or Bibby. It's Bybee. I'll put Goodreads links down below for you guys. This is a historical romance / time travel. I'll just say I think Outlander is better. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the Outlander series, but I think if you like that genre, Outlander's a better book than this book. Same kind of principle. Woman from the future, although it's 20th century or 21st century future. Guy from the 16th century Scotland. He and his brother have jumped through time to a Renaissance festival so that they can try to track down this ancient druid / witch who is posing as the fair's organizer in order to kind of screen people who have druid blood to help her break a curse. They wind up jumping back into his time. That's part of the storyline. I thought this book was okay. It wasn't great. There were some weird plot things that I'm not sure the author really either thought out or did research on, like it was no big deal for her to jump to his time, and it wasn't a big deal for him to jump back and forth between his time and her time, but then she couldn't go back. I don't know why. Why couldn't she? She could. If she got one way and he can go forward and back, there's no reason why she couldn't. But that was something that they said couldn't happen, and then they didn't explain why. Other weird things like the main character, the woman who, once she jumps to his time, she decides that she wants to make like a cottage garden for this huge castle that they're living in, because of course he's not a peasant living in a hovel. They never are. And there's no information that she's taken seeds with her, but in 16th century Scotland, she now has access to tomatoes, zucchini, and garlic. None of which I think she would, I mean, like, where did she get those seeds from? No clue. Just, there you go. So, not one of my favorite books this year, but I had a really hard time finding a book with the word vow in the title. Apparently there's not that many. So, I read it. Like I said, if you like the genre, I think Outlander's a better series, so just have that as your pick. Next up, another book with time travel in it called The Time Collector by Gwendolyn Womack. The premise of this book is that there are people who can hold an object and they can get that object's past They get it like in video format where they can see events in people's lives who have touched the object. And the book starts out with a jump back to Mozart's time in Austria and a small little music box, and that kind of kicks the story off. The main character, there's two main characters. The man is somebody who knows he's had this skill since he was a little kid, and he's now a very well respected antiques dealer. He goes the entire world over. He finds things that are of great worth because, of course, all he has to do is put his hands on them and he can kind of read their past history. So he gets drawn into this group from a friend who also has these skills, and they are trying to solve the riddle of some objects that they found that don't seem to make any sense, like a 17th century key that's found in an archaeological dig that should only have that's like a layer of strata that has dinosaur bones in it. So they don't know how that key is kind of existing in two parallel universes. The other character is a young woman who she knows that something's odd and that she can pick up an object and get these sort of flashes of information from it, but she doesn't know why she can do that, and she doesn't think that there's anyone else who can do that. But she is strapped for cash. Her mother has just died. She's a 20-something, and she's got guardianship of her younger brother, who's a troublemaker at school, and she's trying to get enough money together to pay the mortgage on the house. So they go to Antique Road. She's gone basically to like a flea market, and she's found two pieces that she's gotten these flashes about. So she takes them to an Antiques Roadshow screening and has them evaluated, and winds up making a ton of money off of them. But that little snip goes viral, and so the male character shows up at her place of work to kind of interview her without her knowing it, to see if she really has these skills. He's worried she might be in danger, which it turns out she is. So they have this interesting story about all of these little backstories that are connected to these artifacts, and whether or not these artifacts that are appearing in the two different layers that seem to have like a parallel story in two different times are actually the key to traveling back in time. It's a little sci-fi, and it's a little bit of the time travel, and there's a little bit of sort of magical realism in it. Again, I picked this up for a Magical Stitches prompt. You needed to find a character who collects things, which he does. He collects antiques. And that's why I picked it up. Didn't know anything else about it. Actually really liked this book. It was fun. It's the first in a series. There's other things that happen going on down the line. But quite fun. Definitely a suspend your disbelief kind of book, but not in an overblown way. Nicely done, I thought. Next up, I needed a book that jumped back and forth in time. Yet another sort of time travel book, but I chose Bellwether by Susanna Kersley. If you've read any of her books, they tend to have some element of either paranormal or magic in them. And they're all, or at least all the ones I've read, are written with two time periods. This one I really enjoyed because it was set in the United States, in New York, and off like New York, Connecticut, and that sort of coastal region in that northern mid-Atlantic. Contemporary time, and then it also jumped back and forth to a story that took place during the 7 Years' War. And as somebody who has, my master's degree is actually in colonial American history, it was really nice to have a book that focused on that period that was just before the War of Independence and was talking more about some of the history leading up to the Revolutionary War conflicts. It dealt more with, obviously, because the 7 Years' War is also called the French and Indian War, so it dealt more with indigenous Indian tribes slash the French occupation of parts of New York, as well as the British colonials' occupation of various parts of New York. Good story, fun twists. I love the characters she created. It's got some romance in it, but nothing crazy. It's pretty mellow. Yeah, I actually really like this book. It's kind of a late read. It's what I think of as like summer reading, but it was fun. It was a fun book. And of the ones of hers I've read, I would say, and I think I've read 3 or 4. I would say this has been my favorite so far. So again, Bellwether is the name of the book. Next, I needed a book with a main character who dies. I know, very cheerful, but I picked Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. This is an older book. It's been around for a while. It's had, I think, either a movie or a stage play made out of it. If you haven't read it or it's not on your radar, the short version is it's a book written by Mitch Albom, who was a sports writer, that was a series of sort of interviews that he did with the gentleman who had been his college professor at Brandeis in the mid-70s, Morrie Schwartz, who is a sociologist. And Morrie wound up getting diagnosed in his late 70s with Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. And so in knowing that he was going to die and was on a fairly short time frame left on this earth, he felt that it was important not to kind of wallow in self-pity, and he tried very hard to share his message of positive living and living a good life, not living the good life, but living a good life, with people. So he was interviewed by Ted Koppel on Nightline. I think they did 3 interviews with him. Mitch Albom, the author, winds up reconnecting with his old professor, and they spent Tuesdays together for the last, I believe it's 15 weeks of Morrie's life. And Mitch records their conversations. I listened to this in audiobook, so it was kind of fun because at the end of it, they actually included some clips from those tape-recorded discussions that you read about in the book. So part of it's a very sad story in that you're following this older gentleman as his health continues to decline, and his mind is completely with it, so he knows that he's in decline. And part of it is really uplifting because this is a guy who had a lot of great things to say. He definitely had a positive outlook on life. He left time to be sad about the fact that he was sick and deteriorating, but he didn't wallow in it. He didn't let it rule his life. There's lots of really good, for lack of a better word, motivational statements in this book. I think I liked it quite a bit because Morrie Schwartz reminded me a lot of my grandfather. They both grew up in New York. They both had a very similar outlook on life. They both were children of immigrants who did a lot of hard work to get where they were in life. So I recommend it with reservations. If you're the kind of person that type of story is just going to trigger all kinds of stuff, it's not for you. But if you can look past that and see the positive message, then it's a great little read. And it's short. I think it's like 200 pages or maybe not even. And it's been out for 25 years. So there may be lots of you who have already read it or are at least aware of the story and know that it's not your thing. But at any rate, finish that one. Lastly, I have a print book called Murder on Black Swan Lake. The author is Andrea Penrose. This is the first in a series. These mysteries are set in Regency England, not Victorian England, which is kind of a nice change. The 2 main characters are a peer of the realm who dabbles in chemistry. He's an amateur scientist, but a really good one. And a woman who is living on her own. She's a widow. She hasn't officially adopted, but she has these two local street ruffians who she feeds, and they usually sleep in her house, like by the stove kind of thing. They're trying hard to maintain their independence, but they're two little boys, and she uses them to run errands for her. She, after her husband's death, he was an artist, as is she. He had done some moderately successful satirical cartoons, and she takes over that business and has become super successful at it, and she works under the nom de plume A.J. Quill. So the boys, she pays them also to take her drawings to the newspaper publisher that she works with so that she can maintain her anonymity. So into this, these two people meet each other, because of the murder of a clergyman. She's snuck out before the cops have come. Her two little errand boys have told her that there's been this body found. The alarm has been raised. It's right around the corner from her house, but the police are not there yet. So she sneaks out and she basically sees the crime scene, and so that she can do a cartoon of it. He's drawn into the murder because the man has suffered some horrible chemical acid burns, as well as having his throat cut. And he and the clergyman had argued. The clergyman had called him, Satan's brother or something, because he lives kind of a wastrel type life. He's got oodles of money and lots of time, and so he does what he pleases. So the clergyman has called him out on that, and so then, of course, he becomes a prime suspect because of the chemical burns and the fact that the two of them argued. As with all good mysteries, it turns out that there's a lot of other things going on behind the scenes in this book. It's set in London. I really, really like this book. I liked the fact that the main character, the female main character, is smart and bright and kind of maintains her independence through this, even though she could easily be swayed, I guess, to sort of leave this place that she lives and go live somewhere quietly in the country. But she loves all of the things she does. She's super proud of her art. There are two really good characters that play off each other, she and Lord Rexford. Great plot twists. Like I said, it's set in Regency London, which was fun. The author does a really good job building place, character building, all of that. So I really enjoyed this one. If you like historical mysteries, a very good one to pick up. And like I said, first in a series. She closes out the book where she leaves the opportunity open for the two of them to have more adventures together, but not so much, obviously, so that anything's left hanging. She gets everything appropriately tied up at the end of the book. So a good one that my dad sent me, because that's what he sends me, is good stuff to read. All right, I'm doing pretty good here. 23 and a half minutes. All right, let's talk cross stitch. I did not have a ton of different things that I've worked on in the last couple weeks because I've been focusing on just a few projects, and Magical Stitches and Literature Prompts have allowed me to work on very similar things. I did want to share with you guys, I got this, and there's a horrible glare. Is there a way to get rid of that? Sort of, but not really. Sorry. Can either have light or you can see this, but my new travel mug is the 25th anniversary Tervis cup from Harry Potter, and it's got all of the wand, the spell movements, the wand movements for spells, and then it's got all these great Harry Potter themed bits on it, like Gryffindor and Your Mother's Eyes and Expecto Patronum and all that good stuff. So I'm enjoying my morning tea out of that. Harry Potter's people, you can pick that up. The Tervis website still has those. I also got a Marauders map one that's just their regular cup, but it's in the wash, so maybe I'll show that next time. Okay, ramble much. Let's start with a stitching shelf. I made good progress over here on this section. This is one very large purple book, so I will focus on that next time I pick this up. This will come out again this month, but probably not for another week or so. I'm still on track to finish this page this year, but that's my last goal for that. So I'm not rushing to get it done because I've been busy working on an October themed piece, which I'll show you in a minute. That is stitched 1/1, full crosses, 25 count. It's an Aimee Stewart design that is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. Put some stitches into that. Next up, here, let me show you that picture. Another full coverage design. This is Witchy Way. It is a Molly Harrison artwork charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is the mini version. I'm also doing this on 25 count, 1/1 full cross, because that's kind of my jam. And here is where I am on it. So this is actually page 3, and the last little column, there's like 100 stitch column here. That's the end of the piece. So this will be the side edge. And I've worked down to about here is completely done. I got this cute little bat finished, which I had been wanting to do for a while. And working away on this. Love, love, love how much Pattern Keeper is moving me along on this. It's super easy to do. One of the things I had been struggling with was, if I finished page 3, then I've got like this little teeny tiny mini page, but since you can skip through, like you can see, but skip over the page break in the Pattern Keeper app, it just was like, well, just finish, just go to the edge, and then, that whole piece will be done, and I won't have to sort of jump over and do like this little mini piece and restart threads and everything else. Just keep on going. According to the Pattern Keeper app, I am over the 25% mark on this. If you follow me on Instagram, where I am Little Bird Stitcher for stitching things, you will have seen that. So this is what I'm working on most focusedly, like in the evenings and stuff like that right now. Next, I want to show you the other piece that I've been focused on. So this is Village of Hawk Run Hollow. Earlier this year, my goal had been to get through here, and I did that. That was part of my Stitch 9 challenge. And then I've gone on to finish this whole row, so I'm 75% done. And I have now started on this last row of blocks. This block right here, block 12, I've decided to tackle first because I know it's going to take the longest rather than leave it to the last. It is full coverage, and when I did the math on it, it's actually more stitches than, or it's the same number of stitches as a normal full coverage page. So it will be a while. But here's where I am. I finished blocking out the last 3 blocks. I had run out of 975, which is the color for that, but that came this week, so I finished the border for block 12 and I started block 12. So I've got the old burial ground mound started and some of the lettering, and I started putting in a thread of the background. Because the background's all 310, I'm going to try to do the lighter colors first and then come back and fill in around that as much as I can, but this doesn't actually touch any color. It's still just all black, so I had a prompt for another group challenge to do all black, so I stuck in those 200 stitches and called her good. So, Kim Hollenbach's, who's on YouTube under that name, and then Spartan Stitcher on Instagram, if you follow her in any of those places. She commented on the fact that, I had to go for it because it's like October, November, December. There's 1 block for each of the 3 months left, but I don't know. getting this block done this month is going to be, I think, unlikely. So I suspect this one will fall into 2020, but that's okay because I'm way ahead of the goal that I had set for myself for this year. And if I can get this block done and, you know, a second of these last three and even start on this third one, I feel confident that it, you know, I can get it finished up fairly early in the year in 2020. So just going to keep on working on this as much as I can. That and Witch Way are my two kind of focus pieces. There will be a few other things that come out probably in the next week to deal with homework and other prompts, but for the most part, that's what y'all will see for the rest of the month. So hope you're enjoying them. One quick stash acquisition. I got those, the $9.75, the DMC that you saw for those blocks. And then I picked up the Cricut Collection, 2 familiars. This is available from 123 Stitch. Michelle at Cozy Egg did this piece. I don't love the cat. I know it's more than half the projects in this book because it's so big, but Michelle did this on an amazing dark fabric and it looked so, so good. I was like, yeah, I have to have that. I love it. The raven in there. This is still available. It's not at a print if you love it. Like I said, 123 Stitch has it. You can probably find it other vendors as well, but that's where I got my copy. So let's see if I forgot anything. Nope, I don't think so. See, that wasn't too bad, half an hour. So I will be back. If I can fit a video in next week, I will, but I think probably not. So I will probably not see you for, may not be 2 full weeks, but probably at least 10 days. I've really been enjoying all the dark October stitching. If you look for that hashtag out in the world of Instagram or Facebook, lots of great projects out there. It makes me want to stitch all of the October-y Halloween things. But I'm enjoying working on Witch Way right now, so that's good. Did want to just say, if you are somebody who is working on full coverage pieces, the Full Coverage Fanatics group has a weekend event that will be happening in November. It's to work on your biggest piece. Biggest full coverage piece. I will be working on a stitching shelf, obviously, because it's massive. And it is my biggest full coverage piece. So if you'd like to join us there, I will also link to that group event below, as well as the group in general. We would love to have you join us. I think we're inched up on 3,000 subscribers over there, so that's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, all good. So I will leave you with that. I hope everyone has a great week or two. Lots of time for some crafty projects, and you're enjoying whatever the weather might be bringing at your end of the world, even if it is a little early snow. So take care, everyone. Be well. Bye for now.